What's up, fellas?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Man, what a day. What a day it is. Y'all doing
Yeah.
okay? You guys doing all right?
Any better? Not my name be Bruce Jenny right now.
Exactly.
It is pretty good, I gotta say, right now down here. Although we'll talk about it more, but man, it's just today, probably the last 3 or 4 days, it's like everything is turning green. It's just all of a sudden. Now the trees aren't really as much, but like the grass, everything is green. The grass and the weeds, of course, and just really not a lot blooming yet, but things are. I mean, it was like mid 80s today. I think it has that springtime feel out here. So and the bees are responding. Trust me, they are definitely responding. So anyway,
Oh yeah,
so guys, what's up, Brian? What's going on up in your neck of the woods?
they're responding to me too. Not much. I mean, I was able to do what I said I had to do. I snuck over in between showers today. I mean, we had nasty storms come through here. They said we hit 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts. Greg, you might have been actually worse down your way because I think you had more warnings than what we did up here, but it was nasty. I snuck over and literally was pulling the last bucket and putting the last plugs in, and it started to rain. And of course, I'm doing this because it's 70 degrees. I'm doing it in shorts and with black shoes and black socks, and they about lit my ankles up like I was the devil.
But were they Crocs? Was it Crocs and socks and shorts?
No,
Not
they
yet.
were a couple-year-old Skechers that are completely worn out. But yeah, I mean they lit me up. They were not happy. I figured they were going to be that way just with the weather and everything, but uh, I was I'm thankful that I was able to go and put that syrup on because like two of the buckets were more than they were probably close to like three-quarters of the way gone after 6 days. So they were all pretty much about halfway gone. But there was a couple of them that were about three-quarters of the way gone. So
Wow, that's like 7 pounds of feed.
yeah,
That's huge.
yeah. In like, well, I put them on late last Wednesday, so I mean they went almost 7 days. So thankful for that. And I left fondant on them, I left pollen patties on them. So right now in the next week, we're gonna have temps are dipping back down. We're gonna hit like right now it's 61, but they said we're supposed to go down to 30 overnight. Tomorrow our high is going to be like 38. So the crazy spring weather up here. So things are pretty much I batten down the hatches for the next probably about 10 days. And after about 10 days, I think we'll be good. I mean, I think we're getting into more of like a normal pattern up here because I used to say years ago, St. Patrick's Day was always around like our last snowfall, things like that. And we've got next Tuesday on St. Patrick's Day a high of 26 and like a low of 16. So after that, though, we're supposed to be warming up some. So I think though, like a couple people, they saw me putting buckets on and doing what I did. They said, "Oh, you're rolling the dice there," and I think it's going to pay off. Just they wouldn't have taken all that feed had they not needed it. So in every bucket that I pulled out, there was a glob of bees hanging on it. So they needed it, you know. So that's what's happening up here.
Greg, you got a similar story. You say you've been, I guess, burning the oil at both ends this
man.
week. Well, tell us kind of what's going on in your neck of the woods.
Yeah, burning the candle at both ends and everything in between, and I'm not sleeping real good. I'm looking at the forecast here. Let's see. Brian's got me squirrel dogged, and I'm got limited bandwidth mentally here tonight. Looking. Okay. Yeah, it looks like we're real similar as far as the weather, Brian. We've got just a couple, cool nights, not even worth complaining about or really even mentioning. got a couple nights 18, 19 degrees for
Mhm.
the lows, it looks like, and then
Yeah.
that's the first part of next week, and then from there, I mean, one couple nights 34, 35. Yeah, package pickups are looking beautiful. That first pickup weekend on the 28th is looking
28.
nice. 57 to 60 degrees
Oh,
during the
good.
day, 35 for the lows. I mean, that's actually very ideal because the bees will cluster in, stay put, and they won't be quite so lively and active moving around. That's going to be great. Um,
Good.
yeah, I'm in a weird spot because I'm a little bit tired. I don't know what it is about this spring. Of course, we've been doing a lot of traveling, so that probably is weighing in on me. But spring feels weird. Typically, you guys, if we went back to this conversation historically that we've had as the stream team for the last 4 years or so, and then just this time on the homestead, we always say what the old timers always said, and that's 3 snows after the forsythia blooms, and the forsythia hasn't even bloomed yet. So it's kind of weird. The spring peeper started, I think, 3 nights ago, um, which is I love to hear that. But whenever we hear the spring peepers, usually we're cruising in there. It's like it's not turning around. So the peepers are already out. Robins, of course, are going. They're everywhere.
Mhm.
Trees are budding out. The maples are. They'll probably bloom after this rain and it warms. They'll bloom. So like we're just about in it, in the start, which means we're going to start seeing some sporadic dandelions, some forsythia, things of that nature. So we're pretty close for the season starting off. So that's pretty good, I guess. But it feels, whether it's just me being maybe a little tired or it's just the spring is just a little different. It doesn't seem to be tracking like it has historically in the past. So it'll be
Mhm.
interesting to see what that means. The good news is I think we've had a good amount of moisture. So I'm praying that that's going to mean we should hit really nice for autumn olive, but most importantly, blackberry. We should hit real well with blackberry nectar, and then possibly black locust. That would be ideal. Maybe we can have a good spring crop here. So, um,
Mhm.
anyways, that's really what's going on here. Just getting caught up on communications and orders and things like that from all the conferences we've been going back and forth to. Uh, we're excited. We're going to be up at Brian's club speaking on this Sunday. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, Brian's
Yeah.
Bee Club, and I always get the name wrong, but it's Columbiana Mahoning. Is that right, Brian?
Yep.
Yeah, Columbiana is the one I always. So Columbia Mahoning Club, speaking with those folks this Sunday, and then we'll be at the Maumee Valley Bee Club this coming Tuesday, and then it's just we've got a bunch of them strung out. And if you would go to our website, Nature's Image Farm, you can go to like events and kind of see where we're speaking at next. But we've got a lot of great clubs in Ohio that I'm excited to spend some time with this year. And we get to kind of kick off the season here with Columbiana Mahoning. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm getting a little bit rambly here, Bruce. I'm a little bit foggy brain today. So that's about what's going on here. Bruce, tell us about, go ahead and just start in on them humble brags, rub it in our face there. Tell us about the beekeeping situation out in your neck of the woods.
Is there such thing as a humble brag? I don't know. No, I'm not going to brag because I might be a little bit behind, even though I've been doing my best to stay on top of things. But Greg, you were down here, I guess, almost 3 weeks ago now, and helped me make a bunch of splits. For those who haven't looked at the channel, I've been kind of trying to document some of the stuff I've done. I still haven't got the longer video of your trip down here done, but I have been following some splits and things I've been doing, and I've been putting out some shorter videos of things that have been happening almost as they happen. And we made a bunch of nukes when you were here, Greg, and we made them pretty strong. They've been just about perfect. My plan is to try to get them place this weekend out with customers, and if I may keep a few of myself, but get them kind of placed because they have worked almost to perfection.
Nice.
As far as I know, they all have queens in them. There's only 2 queens I couldn't find, but there were eggs in the colonies, in the hives, in the nukes, and there's only 1 or 2 that were a little bit weaker than I would like. One of them is real weak. I don't know what happened with that one, but there's a couple more that might be a little bit on the weak side, but most of them are just perfect. I went out, we put 4 frames in a feeder in those new nukes, and this past weekend I went out there. They were growing and expanding, and I wanted so many bees and still quite a bit of brood. The queens are filling them up, and so I went out and I moved the feeder out, and I checkerboarded a new frame in. The outside frame had brood and food on it. Checkerboarded a new frame, middle frame had brood on it. Next frame was the one that we put in there with the feeder, but I flipped it around so the least drawn outside was in towards the middle, and then put the other frame of brood and food on the outside. And I went out yesterday and just peeked in on a couple of them, and they're drawing those things out like crazy. They're just, once of them, the queens are laying on them already, and so that was 4 days in.
Have to get them rascals moved into some bigger boxes here
So
soon, Bruce.
the goal is this Friday and Saturday to get them out to customers and get them kind of placed where they need to go. Otherwise, they're going to be too strong. But it's just worked almost to perfection, almost exactly like I hoped it would, and so it's been kind of fun. But went out there yesterday to check and see if they were drawing it out. When I did put some open food out to them, like I think it was Saturday I think it was Saturday or whatever day it was. I put it out there. I think it was Saturday after I checked and got them rearranged. And I'm sure they consume that open feed almost immediately. But then there is no open food out there now for them. And the bees are busy. They're happy, starting to bring stuff in. I saw some, I found out, I didn't realize this, and I'm kind of dumb, I guess, but there are dewberries and blackberries. They look the same to me as far as the blooms go, but I guess the dewberry is more of a vine. Blackberry is more of a bush, and in Midland City in particular, there are both. And today I was out there. I was kind of getting my swarm that I caught yesterday released into the box, set on the pallet, and the bees were working the dewberry all over the ground, just blooming out like crazy. It literally just felt like a dang, just springtime galore out there. Now we don't have tons of flowers popping yet. The trees, a lot of them still have not leafed out, but things are, we are just almost every day you can see a difference. And one of the big indicators down here, it probably is up there too, is the pollen on the cars. I think that's more pine. So the cars are yellow now, pretty much around here. That's starting to happen. And so we are just right here on it. And so, yeah, Eric Conspirato says same genus, different species. I get it. They look the same. I guess the berries look the same and everything. But I did a reel the other day, and I thought it was blackberries, but apparently it was dewberry. And I had 3 or 4 people just say, that's dewberry. That's not blackberry. I'm like, okay, sorry about that.
Now it's a berry. It's berry.
They look, you look at pictures and the berries, they look exactly the same, but I know it is a similar. It doesn't matter to me, but I do like to have it right. So,
do they still produce as much? The dewberries? Do they produce as much as the blackberries?
No, not as much. They're more on the ones around here. I guess it's a vine, but they're all over the ground is mostly where I see them. And so they're just not. The blackberries are in bushes, and so obviously they're going to produce more than just a vine that's kind of growing on the ground or up trees or whatever. So, Grammy says, Lisa says the pears, peaches, plums the fruit trees are blooming, but I'm talking about like a lot of the oaks and pecans and things like that are still dormant, but they'll be busting out soon. Yeah, there are trees blooming around. Trust me, Lisa, I've been out. I've been just running back and forth.
I don't know. I think Bruce has been slacking. Bruce has been slacking off there.
We have a bunch of honey orders, and my gosh, it's been nuts. But I'm a little worried because I pulled up in that bee yard yesterday, Greg. That was the one in Midland City that we had split like crazy. I pulled a total of, I guess, 18 splits, basically a split per hive out there. I think 2 splits out of some of them. And I had a swarm sitting in a bush, a little tree right there. And so I'm like, where'd that dang swarm come from? But I think it was probably, in that particular yard when I did my 10 frame splits with the Kona queens, I pulled I did them in the same yard. And so the foragers all went home. So that kept the original colonies really super strong. And so they really didn't set them back too far. Although I did put, some fresh foundation and everything there to try to give them some room. And today I pulled out a couple frames, just peeking when I was there, and after work, and they're drawing them out. So there is something coming in. They're definitely on a little bit. It's not like pouring in like a nectar flow like honey time, but there's enough coming in that the bees are able to produce, and I don't know that I really need to feed them. If I do more splits, I'll probably put frame feeders or bucket feeders on them just to get them started. But as far as
Yeah.
like the established colonies are finding plenty of resources, pollen coming in, nectar starting to come in at a not at a really fast rate, but at just a rate enough for them to grow, which is what happens here. And so I'm just afraid what I'm going to find out when I go down to all the other bee yards.
Well,
It's
just
just one of
because you see a swarm doesn't mean it's your bees. It's easy to think you blame it on yourself, but I know here we have there's a certain line down a ridge where every year at this you hear them coming, and they're coming from an area of the farm where we don't have any colonies, and there aren't any other beekeepers. There's just still some bees and trees, or over the years our bees have hit and found trees, so you never know. Don't get too worked up yet that
Well, I'm not.
everything is getting ready to. Sometimes you think, sometimes you see that, and then you go into like panic mode, thinking, okay, I got to
No.
go through all. I've done that before, where I know I've been behind, and I see something in the trees, and I go, okay, now I've got to go through everything real quick and see who's getting ready to swarm, because you feel like everything's getting, and then you go through everything in that yard, all 48 or 24, whatever it might be, and like there's no cells, everything's still mature, and you're thinking, if any of these colonies lost that many bees, then fine, because they're still jammed in here, so sometimes it's just your yard attracts swarms sometimes.
There's a
Look at
swarm
that,
from
that's a nice
yesterday.
one.
It was probably
Wow, that's a dandy.
between a volleyball and basketball size, I would guess.
Mhm.
That's how I judge it. I can't. How many pounds? I don't know.
Yeah.
3 or 4 maybe. I don't know. But I just like to judge it and kind of picture
I'm
it.
thinking, what do you
Football,
think,
volleyball.
Brian? So is that between 6 and 7 pounds there, Brian? What do you think?
I don't think it was
Huh?
that big.
Are we too tired for that tonight?
And so yeah, it's a nice looking swarm. And then what I did something a little different this time. Brian, I'm not sure how to do this. Let's see.
What do you need to do?
I just want to do what I just did again, but get rid of that one. Let's try this. If I just go to another image file, will it move that one out?
There. I'll just.
Yep, there it is.
There you go.
So for those who tell me what you guys think that is right there. You probably know, but tell me what you think I did to catch that swarm. You guys got any thoughts on it? People in the comments, or you guys?
Well, I see a swarm catching apparatus on the bottom with a gate, and it looks like you've got some kind of a fancy tin top and bottom apparatus as a companion piece for that. Did you well, I think I know. Let's see what the comments have to say.
I wish I could zoom in on it, but on the side of that yellow bucket, it says Yappy Bee Man, and he signed it himself at the conference.
See?
But that is actually an Everything
Wow.
Bee Vac. I bought the Everything Bee Vac not because I want to do removals per se, not to say I won't do a few here or there in the future maybe, but I bought it particularly to catch swarms with. Last night was my first time using it. It's got a contraption you can buy with, that's the base on top of the bucket. It's got a hole in it, sits right over the bucket, and I'll have a video coming out on it soon, assuming the video was good. And then it has a top, so you just take a standard box with your frames or whatever in it, you set it over the top of that bucket, and you just leave it there overnight or however long you want to. Come back, it's got you can see that little round thing on the lid there. It's got a little screen for ventilation. Also recommended you put a feeder in it, but I didn't do that, and the bees were just fine. Now, in the summertime, especially, or when it starts to get really hot, you probably would want to put a feeder or something in there. But there's plenty of ventilation. I think it's fine. Plenty of room in there for the bees to move up. And so I left it over there overnight. Went back this afternoon about almost 24 hours later, and the bees, like 99.99% of them were up in the box. I just dumped the rest of them on the ground in front of the hive. And believe it or not, when I went through this colony, when I went through this swarm, I was really kind of shocked when I found the queen. It was a virgin queen in there, a tiny little queen. So somebody somewhere has swarmed already, I think, and it's probably a cast or a secondary swarm would be my guess, unless they just had multiple.
You can have more than one queen in it. Yeah, you might find there. I think I've counted as many as 8 in a swarm before. So you never know.
Typically not these early swarms, though. To me, it seems like it's more usually the earlier ones that I've seen have been more just the old, prime swarms, the old queen. But this one had a little virgin queen in there, so I just closed it up and set it down on the pallet. Removed the bottom adapter there, and the top adapter. You can see under the back corner, it's just sitting on the lid. I put the lid on it, and then I'm just going to let them rock and roll for about 2 or 3 weeks. And probably not even really get in them much at all. Maybe just crack the lid, but I want to let that virgin queen get out and get mated, and hopefully we'll end up with a nice colony here. So,
Is
yeah,
that an
I don't.
adapter plate on the bottom, Bruce?
It
For
is.
the everything vac?
It is. It's got an adapter. It's got a big hole in it. And if you guys kind of a little teaser here, a video will be coming out, and I'll show you kind of how it all works. But it's like an adapter plate. It is
Nice.
not the everything BVAC is not. That's just something you can buy in addition to the vac.
Mhm.
And then everything BVAC also has a backpack harness on it, like you wrap
Yeah.
it around the bucket. And I took that off when I set it out there because in case it rained or got nasty, I took it off and just set it there on the pallet. So anyway, we will see how it works. But that it was so nice because you can just drop a swarm in a box and just set it off to the side, but then you have to come back and check them, or sometimes it takes a while to do that. I think this whole catch took like 10 minutes, maybe 11 minutes I just cranked up the vacuumed them in there. Now that was the actual vacuuming up. It was a pretty good size swarm, and I was trying to figure out first time using the vacuum a little bit. But then it probably took another 5 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes to get it over, get the adapter all set up and get the box on there. Plus I was trying to video. So probably 15 to 20 minutes for the entire catch. Instead of having to try and get them in a box or a bucket or a box bucket or bee box and let them all march in, make sure the queen's there, try to find the queen or whatever you do. It was just very quick. And that's the reason I bought the BVAC was to be able to catch swarms quickly like that. It also is battery powered. And so I just, it didn't have to have it plugged in anywhere. It just put the backpack on, turned it on, sucked up the swarm, moved it over to the bee yard and set it up. And so I've sure get even faster at it once I do it more. But obviously it's honestly a little bit funner probably to catch swarms where you just knock them in a box or knock them on the ground and watch them run in. It's kind of cooler that way to watch the march. But this was a very efficient way to do it. So that's the reason I bought that thing. And so yeah, I've got the BVAC in the truck with me. So I can have it at work. If someone calls me, I can go straight to their place, vacuum them up and leave, and I think it'll work out well. But anyway, so that's one of my new toys I got. I don't like I say, I don't do removals. I don't really want to do removals, at least not right now. But I think it'll be a handy tool to have to catch swarms easily, whether it be my own bees or right there at my bee yard, or whether someone gives me a swarm call and I have time to go check it out. But,
Now
anyway,
mine's not signed. It's not as fancy as the Yappy signed edition, but I really like that that unit there. It has a little controller right on your left, or I guess you can put on whatever side you want, but you got a little speed controller for the vacuum, and that's really handy.
It's got a little adapter you plug into it, and it comes around your shoulder and clips on your bee suit or whatever you're wearing, your clothes, your shirt.
Yeah.
And that way you can just like reach down there and just turn it on. And that you can just turn it on at the top of the vac and strip it over your shoulders while it's running. But that way you can just flip it on and off without having to take it off your shoulders. So it was pretty cool. I got kind of all the different adapters and things. So I tried out a couple of different ones to catch the swarm. But one way it was really cool was it was kind of up in the tree to where there were some little limbs going through the swarm. And those are hard to do if you're trying to bump them in something because the bees get all caught up in the limbs and the leaves and everything.
Yeah.
But I just did that vacuum and just kind of sucked the bees out, all up in there, and it just worked out really well. And so we'll see how that swarm does. Now there were a few bees in the bottom of the bucket that were dead. I guess maybe it was a little rough on them when I vacuumed them up, or maybe it got a little hot I'm not sure why, but there was just very, very few in the bottom that didn't make it. So, I think that's going to be the case in most any type of a vacuuming type situation.
Yeah.
And I also need to probably figure out, maybe adjust the knob, get it the right adjustment. It may have been a little bit too much pressure on the bees, but
I think that's a big feature of that thing is like if there are times where you got to go full open and start to pull bees out of it, then you crack it wide open, but then you can cut it back down and keep it at a more moderate vacuum pace, and that's a lot easier on the bees.
Question from Uncle Jinger 67: when you transfer the bees from the to the box,
he meant vac from the vac
from the back to the box, you keep them locked up in for a couple hours. No, in this case they were locked in. They had that contraption on top of the vac, and so you set the box on top the way I do with this particular setup I have, and the bees tend to move up. I also had a frame of comb in there in the top box plus some empty frames. Now the comb was they were medium frame. It was a medium frame, and so I'm out of deep frames of comb. I'm just out of them. So I wanted to have something up there to draw them up. And when I came back today, almost all the bees had moved up into the box. Then all I had to do was just, it was overnight. It was like almost 24 hours. I think that was plenty of time for them to be in there. So I just took the basically lifted the hive up off I undid the strap that was around it, lifted the hive up off the bottom plate, set it over on the lid, and then took the vac and the plate out, set it down on the pallet or on the bottom board, you would say. Then I took the lid off, kind of checked out the bees, and then I put the actual bee lid, the cover that goes on the hive on there. And so just set them on that pallet and they're ready to go. And so I hope they don't leave. I don't think they will. There's always a risk of that unless you actually lock them in a cage or another way to lock them in the hive is to put a frame of brood in there, which I did not do. But I think they'll be there. And if not, then, so it's kind of fun. Just a new time, something I did for the first time. I've used my Colorado Bee Vac to catch swarms a few times before, but I wanted to try this out. It was kind of fun. I've never used this vac before, and it was really an effective and a good unit, a good tool. So,
he makes good stuff, and if you're ever in the market for a really nice automatic chicken door, he also has those on his website too.
Brian, do you know the website, what it is? You can Google everything BVAC and it pops up, but it's a different name on the website. I can't remember what it's called. But yeah, just go check it out if you're interested in getting a BVAC. I really like it, and it's a little pricey now. They're pretty expensive, but if you plan on, the biggest thing I've gotten to the point to where I almost hate any kind of tool that has a cord attached to it, even though that sometimes I still have a few of those things. So the thing about this thing is it's battery powered, and I can't remember how long he said they'll last, but it can last for many hours worth of vacuuming before you have to recharge the battery on it, supposedly. So
is that it right there?
That's it. What is it? All My Bees? Allmybees.com.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go.
Is that the right website? That doesn't seem right.
I think it is. Yeah, I think it is.
Is it?
The home was this here, home of the Everything Bee Vacuum.
Yeah, I remembered it was something different like that. Yeah, you think the website would be everythingbvac.com, but that sounds right to me.
Maybe I'm thinking of chicken door guy, or no, that's not it.
Maybe he's got a different website for the chicken doors. I don't know. Anyway,
I didn't search chicken door, man.
Eric says doesn't seem right. I haven't been really watching the stream here that much, but
yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, so I guess we can dive into some topics here a little bit that I just thought I'd share. That's kind of what's been going on here. I have been making some videos, and the channel seems to be doing a little better. I think it's just because it's bee season is basically right here. Either it's here or it's very close to being here for everybody, and so I think that helps the YouTube channels in the beekeeping world pick up a little bit when bee season starts to roll in. But,
it is All My Bees.
Yeah, it is. I remembered it was something like that. I just knew it wasn't everything. So anyway, well, I guess we can talk about what's happening now with everybody. Brian, what are your plans as far as you've talked about a little bit on previous chats, as far as like numbers, splits, kind of what are you thinking coming up the next few weeks for you as far as building your numbers to where you want them and so forth to be able to maximize your honey? What are your plans for this year?
Yeah. So with the 12 colonies that I have, I think that I'm going to end up splitting 5 or 6 of them. I want to have 15 honey production colonies. And then I was thinking about number of nukes to put on the side just as like a resource. I think I'm only going to pull 2. So as far as like splits, really I only have to pull, if everything stays the way it is, I only have to pull 5 splits off of the 12. And then those other 7, I just want to demoray them. I don't want to grow in numbers past that, just because if I can end up with a successful harvest out of 15 colonies, then, I'll be fine as far as the amount of honey that I need to satisfy like the customers from the markets that I do. The demoray, that's going to be all new for me this year. I've never done it. I've talked to people that like it. I've talked to people that dislike it. So we're going to see. I think like a lot of the people that dislike it, they talk about the work involved, but I really don't care about that. In my mind, like with my number of colonies, let's say I demoray 7 colonies. to have to go over on like a day 1 and do splits, and then day 8 and check for cells, things like that. To me, that's not a lot of work. I mean, if I'm only going through 7 colonies doing that, it's not a lot of work, and then they stay put after that for 13 days, and then I potentially split it again. But that's my plan. I mean, I came home this weekend with one of those defender hives from Michael at 21st Bees. So I need to get that set up. And I was going to pull some splits and set them into those double nuke, those resource hives that I have. But I probably am going to end up tossing one split like in a 10 frame box, and then I'll probably throw a split into that defender hive, because Michael was telling me he was going through a little bit of the uses of that, and like I can throw a small split into that thing. If you've seen it, like it's split, you can split it into 4, or you could split it into 3, and you can open up the divider so that if I throw a split into one side, then I can have that colony working on the frames that he supplied with it on the other side. So that way I can get into dropping some cells, doing different things like that. So this year, I know I'm going to add in a lot more than what I've messed around with in the past. But number wise, I can't ever see myself going above 20. You figure with 15 production hives, typically you should have a couple resource colonies off to the side, just so that you have extra queens, so that you have access to, brood or whatever it is. You can always supplement your production colonies. And I think eventually I'll probably end up going like 15 and 4. I think that would probably be a solid number. So I think max as far as colonies that I'll end up is maybe 19. But we'll see. I've prepped as far as the equipment that I'll need. I know with the Demaray, you need a lot of equipment. So this year, very early on, I'm going to start to swap out some of my frames, because I got all those frames from Michael in January. So I'm going to start swapping out some of those just to get some comb built early. So that way I'll have access to drawn comb when I do those Demaray. So when I'm pulling frames from the bottom, putting them up top, I can just slap in drawn comb right down below, so that the queen isn't delayed in laying those eggs, just so that I get those massive colonies. I'm hoping it all pans out. If it doesn't work, if I don't get this bumper crop, but I still get a regular honey crop, even if I get 50 pounds honey out of a colony for the year, if I have 15 production colonies, I'm still looking at what, 750 pounds honey. So the most that I've ever pulled in a prior year is 600. So I think this year, where I'm sitting at so far, I think 26 is looking to, I think it's looking to be a good year. I'll just say that. I'm not going to get ahead of myself, but
You can't
like,
get.
I don't want to get ahead of myself there. But yeah, and I do need to. I tell you, as soon as this weather breaks, I need to get over there, and there's 5 smaller trees I need to cut down. It's a day's work, to go over, and I think probably 4 to 6 hours I can probably get it done, and then throw some stands over there. I may end up just building one large stand, that way I can set that defender hive over there. I can, have enough room for maybe 1 or 2 of those other resource colonies, and then we'll go from there. But yeah, this weather up here just needs to cooperate first. But now we have time. I mean, I was just looking at the hummingbird migration, and like we are March 11th right now, and the hummingbirds, like, they've been sighted around Greenville, so they haven't even hit North Carolina yet.
Oh, wow.
Last year at this time, so last year's map, we had sightings in Northeast Ohio of hummingbirds it was April 17th was the first sighting. Now you figure that's 4.5 weeks away. There's no way that in 4.5 weeks the hummingbirds are going to be here. So we've got a lot of time yet. I do have a little bit of time prep wise that I can get some stands and things like that done, set into place. But it'll be fun. I mean, those of you that are kind of questioning like Demaray, things like that, odds are I am going to screw something up. So just watch, because you'll be able to say, well, I remember Brian really messed that one up. I don't want to do that. So, but we'll see. We'll all learn from it, but that's it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm planning, Bruce. I hope it works out, just, and also I hope that I'm not picking a year to try all these new methods, these new things. And then on top of it, have the lanternfly hit. Because there's, Greg was in some conversations, like we were talking on Saturday, and, I'm picking a year to try something. And then if the lanternfly hits in this area, there were some areas in Ohio where, people were pulling these bumper crops of that honeydew honey. So I'm hoping that I end up with enough equipment, number one. But we'll see. I mean, time will tell. Definitely time is going to tell. But, I think looking at our weather, looking at how things are setting up, I've got a couple weeks yet before any like major moves are going to take place. I can't imagine up here, Greg, looking at the weather, and Bruce looking at our weather up here. I can't imagine that I'm going to be making any moves like that where I'm splitting colonies or doing any work like that in my apiary. It's going to be May. So we have a little bit of time up here yet. So
Yeah, sounds like it. Greg, what about you? Any plans or anything? I know obviously you're super busy, but kind of where are you leaning towards against coming here? Anything you can share with us?
I'd like to share some very secret information. You're going to hear it first. Hashtag 26 for 2026 Castle Hives. I'm calling it 26 colonies in 2026, guys.
I like it.
Yeah.
You heard it first here on the stream.
It's the only thing that's going to reverse the direction of global turmoil, Brian, is if you get lined up, if your apiary lines up and sets the global order back into pieces. 26 colonies in 2026, Brian. It all, you and you alone, Brian, are going to be the one to stop World War III. It's going to be you, Brian.
Right.
We're all depending on you.
I've learned though, so I've gotten wise to Mr. Burns's tricks there. I've learned that when I go down to his place, I lock my car. Don't leave the trunk unlocked, because then I'm going to be driving home and there's going to be stuff in the back. And I've learned, I'm very wise to that. When I walk out and unlock it, I need to unlock just the driver door, because if not, then my gate is going to be going, it's going to lift up and there's going to be stuff getting set in there that I don't want.
You need it. You need it.
Sure. Yeah.
Well,
it's going to be the greatest 26 ever.
The best ever. You know what I'm thinking is,
while he's thinking 1 second, Bruce, you know what I'm going to talk?
I think Greg, I just froze there. Did I literally? I just had a senior moment.
Do you know what I'm going to talk you into there, Greg?
What's that, bud?
And now it would take some work on your part plus my part, but we should demoray a colony down in the learning yard.
Okay. I mean, we can.
Yeah.
I mean, do you want to do a spring or a fall? I mean, we'll do an overwintered if we do a spring, I guess. You know what we should do? I mean, we do have access to like a demery expert in our state.
Exactly.
We could have Mr. Tony West come up and show us in person. I understand all the concepts of it, but I'm mentally in a place with my how I think about stuff isn't necessarily in that train of thought. So it'd be interesting just to have somebody else take the reins on that one in person. But I mean, that's the learning yard's becoming a scenario where you have to kind of control what the learning opportunity is, because the neat thing is it can be a grafting learning yard, a cell building, a queen rearing learning yard, a split learning yard, a beginner learning yard, just an experimental equipment test learning yard. There's all kinds of opportunities there, which is the neat thing. So trying like to rein in like what is the mission of the learning yard for this year. That's something that's definitely important to think about. On our website, nature'simagefarm.com, you can click on the learning yard tab, and then those dates are all up there. And then as we get a little bit closer, we'll start releasing what the topic will be. But we've got, I think it's seven of them up there, 7 or 8, something like that. Maybe is it 6 or 7? I'm not sure, Brian. You have to take a look there, see how many.
But find out.
So here's what I'm thinking, Bruce, is typically, yeah, there you go. Learning yards. We got 1, 2, was it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, we just need maybe one more. Anyways, I tend to just look at the trees and the plants as my timeline. And it seems as though, if memory serves, once the maples bloom, where I'm usually grafting on or around Easter, and from the time that I'm grafting is we're just kind of working towards swarm season. So April, going into late April. So we're talking 45 days or so. 45 days or so from maple bloom is like when we're going to see the first swarms. So here we are, and I'm thinking like, here was Bruce's. Well, Bruce, every time I'm down there, what do I always say? How far do I always say that you down there are X amount of time. I always say you're 2 months ahead. And so that's about right. So from where Bruce is right now, we are probably 60 days away from, maybe 45 to 60 days from swarms. Until the maples bloom, I mean, nothing's going to get started. The bees aren't magically growing out of their boxes right now with no flora and fauna. And so that's where my mind's at right now, is reorganizing some of the yards, reducing the number of colonies in some of the yards, maybe overall reducing the number of colonies. We have some other kind of exciting areas of growth this year that it takes the priority. So it's something we always talk about, right sizing our colonies for the wintertime, but rarely do we actually talk about right sizing our operations or right sizing what our goals are for our colonies. And that's very important. And if we're not right sizing our colonies for the wintertime, we can set them up for failure. And the same thing with our goals in our business, with our apiaries and our bees. If we're not right sizing our business or right sizing our apiary, it can be doomed to fail. And so there's been too much of there's a lot of opportunities. And so making sure that we put the time in the right ones is kind of what I'm focused on right now, Bruce. But maples have to bloom first. So we're waiting on that. We have been out to check on bees and get fondant on everything. Everyone's up in the top box. They're still fairly heavy. The dead outs that we have seen, they are fat. Fat, loaded down with food. So it wasn't a food issue. Again, this year, one of the biggest things that we've seen were colonies that just were on the wind side of the hills and the ridges. They got smoked with that constant cold weather, that 18 below actual. You couple that with 30 to 40, 50 mile an hour winds. It doesn't matter what the colonies are in. That's harsh on them. So it's just starting to feel like spring. But typically we go through a cold spell and then a wet spell, and then spring hits. This year, I don't know what it's going to do, but that's where I'm at, Bruce. I'm rambling now because I'm brain dead.
I like the right sizing your whole operation.
Yeah.
That's about what I'm doing this year though too, because I've learned from the past how large I don't want to go. And now where I'm sitting at 12 colonies, could I feasibly, I mean, yes, I could grow to 30 this year if I wanted to. But I don't with the schedule that I have, I don't have the time to manage that. And I don't want to grow bees. So
Yeah. One thing that I've kind of learned in my operation is that the number of production colonies I want to have, I feel like I need about a third more than that total.
mhm.
So my goal is 100 production colonies. I had it the last 2 years, but I was actually up probably not quite to 150, but 130, 140. I
Mhm.
have hit the 150 mark. That doesn't mean they're all production colonies, but that seems to be a way where I can kind of continue to have what I need.
Mhm.
Of course, when you say right size, in my mind, my right size is keep growing. But in reality, my right size ends up being between 100 and 150. So,
Yeah.
man,
Yeah.
it's just so much fun, though, Greg. What we did when you were down here that day, all
Oh,
the splits
man.
we made, and they're just, I mean, it's just like, to me, it is just a miracle, man, watching those little critters, just what they can do. And we're not really in prime bee season yet. We're just at the very beginning of it right now. So we actually were pushing them a little bit ahead of what we, really probably normally would. But they're kind of starting to really starting to just, I mean, we're at the point to where I'm going to start adding some space, add some honey boxes. I might even make a few queens, and I've thought about doing that. That's kind of one of my goals this year, is to actually, here in the next week or two, set up some sort of a queen rearing situation where I can make some queens and try and maybe do a few more splits that way, just to fill the slots on my pallets. I really don't want to get more pallets, but I would like to have most of the slots on my pallets full. I never have had them all full at the same time, I don't think, but I've been close.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my goal now. And I may, if I can make some good queens or find some more good queens, I may sell a few more nukes as well, because the ones we made, Greg, are mostly spoken for. I think I got 13 to 15 spoken for in the last. There's a couple of them that are a little bit weak that I probably won't sell, and there's the other 3 or 4 I'll probably just use to plug holes in my operation. And so, but man, it's just, I think I really believe if I turned that into part of my operation, if I could keep enough colonies alive through winter, I could actually sell probably as many nukes as I could make. Now, I'm not talking about making 1,000 nukes. I think 30, 40 a year for now would be, if you sell them for a couple $100 a piece, if you make 50, that's $10,000, that you could bring into your operation that way. And so, of course, obviously there's some cost involved with that, with the nuke boxes and the queens or whatever you do, the frames, the equipment. But, that starts to add up in a hurry. And while I'm working full time, I have no visions of making, like I say, 500 nukes or anything like that, or even 100 probably, but just a few that could really help the bottom line a little bit to make a few. And it was so much fun to do that day. And we got a lot of them done in a short period of time that morning. So it's very doable.
Cost wise, so are you doing nukes for 200?
That's what I'm selling them for this year. I was 150, and last year I decided to go up 175, and somebody just paid me 200 just because they wanted to be nice. And I'm like, you know what? I only sold like 2 or 3 nukes last year. I didn't sell very many at all. But it's just, to me, it's not a bad price, and if people are willing to pay it, then it's a lot of work to keep them healthy and strong and throughout the winter in order to be able to make good strong nukes early. And obviously, included in these particular nukes are the queens that I purchased, for the price that the queens are, and we all know how expensive queens are. So that takes out a certain amount of the profit. So
right.
by the time I actually get them out profit wise or above cost, it'll probably end up being around that 140, 150 range. But if you include the nuke boxes and everything in there, so
yeah.
I think you're leaving a lot of money on the table, to be honest, Bruce. Especially if you're buying the queen, we're
sure.
at, and it's all what the market holds. It's interesting because I think honey prices and nuke prices, sometimes they seem like they go in hand to hand. Markets where you can get a lot more for your honey, typically you can get, there's more opportunities to sell your nukes for a good price. But the amount of time that you put into a nuke, if you really think about it, how many resources you actually have in the box, the quality of the nuke that you're going to put together. I mean, there are, in my neck of the woods, you can get a nuke for $175. Some folks will even sell you a nuke for $150. But there is not there is a shortage of good nukes. There is a lot of garbage nukes out there, and there's a lot of folks who are just flipping nukes as well. They're buying them from Georgia. They're bringing them up and they're flipping them. At the end of the day, if that's what the end user wants and that's what you have, that's up to you. What I like to be able to do is take the time to craft together a nice nuke where it's filled out. It's something that's so nice that you say, wow, I don't even know if I want to sell that. I think I want to keep that. It's that nice. Those are the ones that need to go down the road.
Sure.
But
I cannot make myself sell something that's weak or junk. I can't do it. I have to,
yeah,
I just have to, it has to be packed full of bees. And to me, it has to be something that's going to be a benefit to the customer. I just can't, some people are willing to put, and I understand that nukes grow very quickly. And so the nuke you receive isn't necessarily going to be the end product. So if you get a nuke that has 4 frames of bees in there, if it has a lot of brood, they're going to absolutely grow quickly. But I want mine to have 5 frames of bees, and there's a couple of frames in these nukes. One of them is the one we put in there, Greg, that's about half drawn out, or it was this past weekend. Yeah, that's right. Tom says there's no benefit in being cheap. I'm building quality, not quantity. No need to race to the bottom. Exactly, Tom. And I know, Greg, that's your philosophy as well.
Too. Equipment and bees. Yep.
Yeah, you can find cheap stuff, and I'm past that. I don't want to be cheap with things, and I want to I could probably sell them for more, but for right now, that's what I'm doing, and maybe next year it'll be a little bit more. I just want to make sure that I'm creating a quality product, and that I have my biggest concern is making sure that I keep my own stuff strong, so I can have the honey crop and have the strong bees that I want to have. And then if I can utilize these nukes actually to help pull my bees back a little bit so they don't peak and swarm too soon, that's an advantage. That's one thing I really like about not sending them to California is I'm keeping them here. Greg, you saw how they looked in, late, what was it, the 20th of February?
Yeah, they're nice. Huh?
And had they been in California, they'd still be in California. They'd come home busting at the seams in a good year. And then I'd have to split them like in March, mid to late March sometimes. And I'm already behind the 8 ball. And it's just it's just crazy when they get here. You don't know what they've been exposed to. You don't know how their health is going to be. And it's like you're just trying to it's kind of almost panic in a way because you just got to get it done right then or they'll be in the trees. Whereas this time I've been able to, last couple of years, this is the 3rd year I've kept them home. You can just monitor them throughout the winter, and then you can just do what you can as soon as it's available, as soon as the resources are available that you need. And it's worked out real well for me. Let me show you if I can figure out how to do this once again. I'm going to try and show a little video here. I've been doing the video file. Let's see how it works. Maybe this is a nuke, and I uploaded this. Yeah, this frame right here has been in this nuke split or nuke for about 4 days. Let's see how
Isn't that nice looking? Look at that thing.
So this is the frame I put in there. Can you guys hear 2 or just 1? You hear? I'm guessing they are. We're about to sounds like it's echoing.
No, it's good.
It's not echoing for you guys?
No.
Okay, so this weekend. Yeah, that frame I put in there on Friday.
In the hive.
There's a queen right there. There's 4 days before. You see the queen right there?
Yeah, look at the nectar.
She laid eggs.
Focus.
Eggs
slamming
right there.
nectar on the sides. Yep.
Look at that. That's all we need to know. I think they're going to be ready 3 days from now. Anyway, so that's what I like to sell. I think that's a good nuke. What do you guys think? Is that acceptable?
Awesome. I'd say that might be too fat. Depending on who the customer is. If that was going on a truck and they had a long drive, no,
they're all going to be right here local. I'm not going to sell anything. I'm not going to sell anything. I mean, I agree with that.
But it's beautiful. It's a beautiful size. It's a beautiful colony for sure.
All mine are gonna be either I'm taking them myself right here close, like those ones
Yeah.
going to, Yellowhammer are out of those, and then I've
Yeah.
got, I think, 7
Yeah, those are
more
gonna
sold
be
right here close.
I can't wait to see those explode in the
Yeah.
boxes. You know, you take the time and do it right and don't rush it. See, the thing is you can take, you can take a package of bees and you can split it 3 ways from the cut. You can 100% do that, right? But, Brian's got video of me doing that, and then it's fun. But and all you're doing is saying, "I have 3 queen right colonies," but it takes them so long to get off the ground that just to get them to a nuke size takes so long, and then to get them from a nuke to a single, it's almost as though the year is done because they just didn't have the initial population at first. When you take the time and build a beautiful nuke and you size it correctly, the growth rate on that is so much more exponential than if you starve the nuke out or you starve the split out of population. There's so much to say about having at least a baseline population size to get started so that they can protect an entrance. There's enough of a field force to go out and gather, and there's still enough of a young brood force inside the colony to take care of those eggs. Sometimes when we make splits, we just look at everything that's in the box and say, that's bees, that's good, we need coverage. And to a certain extent, that's true. But I think we often overlook, having that diverse age group inside of the box and enough of everything to where they can just cruise. Like it's probably I was thinking about this, Bruce, as you were talking and we were looking at that video. Like I don't know if I can put it into words. So I'll try to ask you the best I can. You know, it's different for you because you had a bunch of other beekeepers there helping out, and so you're worried about
Exactly, yeah.
logistics and is the Gatorade full and what's all the things, right? So there's more stress on your end than on mine. But I kept thinking, gosh, I can't remember a year where it was this easy to make splits. Like maybe it's because when you're on your own turf, it's your own thing. But I'm thinking, gosh, I mean, that was easy. And then look at the result. Like that was so incredibly easy to pull that many splits and to do it that well. Like I don't know why it was, other than you and I have enough experience to know exactly what we want and how we're going to do it. We had Derek and was it Paul?
Paul, yeah, and then we
Paul
also had, of
and
course,
then
Jake
Mike.
was there.
Yeah,
Mike.
Jake was there, was helping. And so when you've got a couple like lead guys who know what they're doing, and then a couple guys who are there learning and are great hands as well, then you can move material and you pick, you pull, you just boom, boom, boom. But obviously the results speak for themselves. The nukes look beautiful. It wasn't that hard. It
No, it
just
wasn't.
seemed so I don't want to say it was effortless, but there just wasn't any hitch. There was no hitch in the giddy up. It went.
Yeah, those nukes were actually, in a way, they were easier than the ones we did later, the 10 frame splits with the
Yeah.
excluders.
Yep.
I think part of it is because of the weather.
Yeah,
And they
true.
were much more manageable, smaller colonies in the nukes, obviously. You pick them up, you move them to a different location, but like you say, I like when I do those type of splits, I like to have another person with me, and we had 2 crews going, where one of us can pull the frames and look at the frames, and the other one and then look for the queen, and the other person looks for the queen as well. That way I don't know if we may have gotten a couple of the original queens in. I don't know that we did though, because pretty much all the queens I've seen look like the Zach's queens. I didn't see any that were marked
Yeah.
from a previous year. There are 2 queens I haven't been able to find. I don't know why, because there's eggs everywhere, so they like to hide sometimes. And with
Yeah.
those yellow blonde queens, maybe those were a couple of queens that were darker from other colonies, but those yellow blonde queens really stand out. One thing interesting about Zach's queens is a lot of them are just you remember in the cages they're kind of small, Greg. They weren't very
Yeah.
big.
Yep.
Well, now they're like these
Massive.
monster long,
Yeah.
big, huge tails. It's like almost within like a week they looked
That's
huge
all it takes.
already. And so I guess when they start laying and cranking up, if it's bees start feeding, they start laying and cranking out the eggs. I guess that abdomen really expands back out again. But they're just huge and
Well, they
beautiful. And
do
some of them,
shrink. They do shrink, and a lot of folks, and every year I'll entertain the same amount of questions, and I'll have to explain to everyone the same thing we say, every single year. But folks will look in a cage with the queen, and they'll say, "Well, she mated.
small.
Is that a virgin?" And I'm thinking, Well, if she is, you might as well call her Mary because it's a miracle and the kind of work that she's already done so far. But you look at the, when you it's like as soon as you pull a queen out of a colony and you cage, it just there is she does start to shrink. And if she's in a cage for a day or two, then she definitely starts to shrink. Um, but it's when she gets back into another environment and she's fed back up again and everything's going, she just and it hits this she hits that stride, especially, you can take I mean, if you really want to geek out on that, take an overwintered queen who is just fat and voluptuous and put her into a queen cage, put a couple attendants in there, and then just put it in the kitchen and watch. And all of a sudden, in 2 days, you'll notice, oh my gosh, the queen is tiny. Like they lose condition pretty quick. So they gain it, but there is something to be said about that. And it's funny because there's a lot of arguing talk back and forth about ovary size and abdomen size and overall egg production and all these kind of things. At the end of the day, if that queen is out there firing away and everyone's happy, I don't care what size she is. I don't care what color she is. Um, you know, as long as she's got eyes and a couple antenna and some wings, she's good to go.
Yeah, I've had some. It's interesting. I've had some of my best queens over the years. Most of them are really big and beautiful and long like that, but I've had some that were actually pretty small that just were rock stars that they never did get
Yeah.
huge. They just filled up hives. They were great. They just did really good. I don't know what the difference is, but most of the ones that, that really do well tend to grow into the big mamas. And they look really good. So anyway, it's fun. I do think I want to in the future try to sell more nukes. And this year I've kind of caught a little vision of the potential. And I think next year I'll do more of the nuke type splits, get more pro nukes, and try to do that first. Get about the strength we did those, and try to move them to a different yard. It is kind of it is easier in some ways to shake them beneath the queen excluder because you don't have to really look for the queen. Move the box in the same bee yard and be done with it. And I think all of my Kona queens that I did right there in that same yard, I think they all got released. I think they're all this beautiful. They're black. Now they're I think carniolans. They're basically black queens. They're really pretty. So we'll see how they do. I think they're going to do just fine. They seem to be doing well, but it's interesting to see. And then the ones down in Applam Farms where we dropped the split down in the original spot and moved the queen away. Those actually were the least accepted amount of queens. I think a few of those didn't get accepted, and I think maybe it's because all the foragers were coming back, and it was just almost too many bees packed in the box. I mean, they did good overall. Most of them got accepted, but there were just a few that didn't. And I think in Slocum I think they all may have gotten accepted. All 8 of those, maybe 1 or 2 didn't. But it was real. I would say probably a 90% acceptance rate on the Hawaiian queens, and all the ones in the nukes I think were accepted. So. Maybe just a huge population the others, but whatever it was, it's just so much fun. But I'm worried now because it's almost like, you get on a runaway train or on a runaway horse and buggy or whatever, and you're just trying to pull the reins back and try to stop that thing. And I can't, like, I went out there to Midland City today, and like the difference it's been 5 days, 5 days since that video I just did where I put that frame down in there. And it's completely different out there today. Like I peeked in a couple of lids. I had my jacket on, but I didn't have gloves on. And I popped a couple of lids and they didn't even really come after me significantly at all. They were a little bit feisty before. The weather it feels like the perfect day out there. It was like 80 degrees, sunny, beautiful. You could see the bees were flying. They were busy and they just seemed really happy and they weren't aggressive at all. And so, and it's just, when the weather clicks on and when other stuff starts coming in, there is still a little bit of yellow jasmine blooming, but hopefully it's about done. I guess it's probably got a few more days left, but when other things start to bloom, I think the effect of that tends to drop a little bit, possibly. And you were here almost 3 weeks ago. I'm not sure how long it blooms, but it's got to be starting to wear down a little bit. I hope so anyway. But the bees have looked good, so they may have been affected a little bit by it. But some years they look kind of sickly, but this year I haven't noticed that as much. So they look really good. I will say that I have seen some kind of unhealthy looking bees, like some of the shiny bees. I hope that's not a virus. Maybe it is. I don't know. It possibly could be. but the overall the colonies look great. So I don't know. We're going to see how they do this year. Every year I just worry about it. I'm thinking, are they going to grow strong? Am I going to get any honey? And Annette, my wife, makes fun of me. She's like, you say that every year. And then every year we end up with honey. And 3 years ago we had a really bad year, but that was the last year we went out to almonds. And I just had a kind of not a really good year that year. But most years, the bees they treat me right. They really do a good job. And I hope this year the bees are pretty clean. I've done a good job. I hope I've done a good job trying to keep them treated and keep everything healthy, keeping them fed. So we're going to see. But anyway, it's a lot of fun. If we got any, let's just see if anyone has any questions to throw in here real quick. Put them in all caps. I think we do have a couple of comments or questions up here. Let's kind of start addressing those. First of all, really want to say, Greg, I appreciate the super chat. This people don't realize how much that really just helps. It helps for 2 reasons. Number one, the money itself does help, but number two, it really just kind of helps the ego a little bit. It helps the confidence a little bit. It helps make it worthwhile to us to do this because there's a lot of work. Like I've got 2 or 3 videos right now I need to get edited. One of them I've been working on for a couple of weeks. And it's just this, when people show support, mainly through viewing and through commenting, but also through the super chats and super stickers, it really does help. So I appreciate that, Greg. Let's see, we got Brian, same thing. Appreciate you, man. Hashtag bees in the trees, stream team. Let's go 2026. I say hashtag 26 in 26. Hashtag Castle Hives. So there we go.
26 and 26. Let's go.
I like that theme. And Brian, like I was saying before, you need a third, again, more colonies than what you want to have for production colonies. So if you want, say, 18, what is it, 18 production colonies, you need 27 colonies. You know what I mean? To be able to make sure you stay at that number, right?
21 would be 7.
You mentioned this a little bit before you guys were talking about the learning yard, but he says, are you opening in the shop? Greg, did you mention that a little bit? Talk about that a little bit, or?
Yep, I think that's Mike and Janice. Will be open we open up the shop starting Saturday the 21st.
There you go.
There you go. Saturday the 21st.
Answers your question. Awesome. Let's see. Do you have bees for sale? In my case, I don't think I really have any more for sale. Mine are pretty much all spoken for down here in Alabama. Greg, I know I don't know what your plans are as far as selling bees yard. I know you got the package thing happening. What are some details about your bee sales?
Yeah, thanks. We've got the first package route just sold out. We've got some availability on the April 11th and April 25th package pickup date here at Nature's Image Farm. If you want to come out to the farm and say hi, support what we do, and see the one and only Mr. Brian Coper as well, he'll be here. I'll be here. Awesome. We'll be here to talk about bees and help you with any kind of equipment choices or bee questions that you would have. Also on those package pickup dates, once every pickup date, we'll be doing a live demo on how to install bees too, right there in the learning yard. So great opportunity to see how a package gets installed hands-on. And then you get to hang out with me and Brian too. So it'll be a lot of fun. We also have some overwintered nukes, and we have some spring nukes available for sale. And we also offer nukes as a hive kit with bees. So we make the option easy for you. It'll be the bees already in the equipment, ready to transport, ready to go. All you do is take it home and open them up, let them go. So a lot of options. nature'simagefarm.com. We really do appreciate everyone's support, whether it's nukes, packages, queens, or supplies. You can visit us anytime at nature'simagefarm.com. Now, Brian, tell us about everything that you have for sale and go. Oh, he's coming back. I was going to leave an empty chair there. Brian's going to have 26 nukes available next year because
you guys are funny.
Yeah, Brian, all you got to do is just every strong colony for production colonies, you make sure they're good and strong in the spring, pull a nuke out that actually pulls them right there when you ready to be to keep from swarming. And
yeah, see,
you sell a nuke, a couple $100 there, and
yeah,
20, that's $4,000 if you charge $200 a piece, and then you go on with your honey season. So there you go.
Look at that.
Easy peasy.
You guys are funny.
Greg can even come up, Greg and I'll come help you split them. How's that sound?
Man, wouldn't that be fun?
Do you have any? Do you plan on selling any bees at all, Brian, or is it just going to be honey for you and your shop?
No, just honey.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. I just don't like up here. I wish that we could do things as early as what you could. If I would get into messing around with getting nukes and things like that set up, I'm so limited with the time, and then if I go and add in another layer to the operation, then, there's only so much of a pie. And then if I divide up the pie more than what it is, I don't feel like I would give them the proper attention. And I'm like you, where I don't want to sell like a junk nuke.
Right.
So I just,
Yeah, I've been hesitant. I've sold a few in the past. It's always been it's been my best stuff. Like I'll make splits in the spring in the past, and the most I've ever sold is probably 8 or 10. I just don't sell many nukes, but I always sell my best ones because I can't stand to give people. But this time with Greg and all the folks helping, we kind of had a plan. And Greg, I appreciate Greg being here because he could kind of help me figure out, now what do we need to do to make sure these are going to be where you want them to be. And we pulled them out, a couple of frames of brood, a frame of food, and a shake of bees, and an empty frame with a feeder. And man, they've done really well so far. So it worked out perfectly. But if you can make them too strong to where they'll be too big, and then you'll be in trouble, or you can make them too weak to where I think we made them just about right. But,
there is an art to that. And so the beautiful thing about, you having the experience that you've had and me as well, it's like, hey, here's what we're looking for. So if we say 2 brood, 2 frame, 2 brood, 2 food, a frame, a shake, whatever language we're speaking, it's like, okay, this is what we're doing on everything. And we're going to be within probably a handful of bees.
That's honestly, man, they are very consistent. Like I say, probably of the 30, there's one that's really weak. I don't know. The queen's in there. I may just add some brood and see what happens. It's not going to be sold to anybody for sure. I don't know what happened to it. It's one of the ones that we ended up setting up at the farm, and the queen looks good and she's laying. It's just, there's just not very many bees in there for some reason.
Is that in a pro nuke, or is that in one of the?
It is. It's one of the yellow pro nukes that we pulled, one of the ones we pulled from Midland City, but it's like the only one of 30 that looks like that.
Is it in the middle of the row, or?
Kinda. It's in one of those little where we set them 3 back to back to each other. It's one of those little trio quad thing. But the rest of there's others like that, and they're not like that. It's just that one for some reason. I don't know if maybe we didn't have quite as much brood.
Or they probably maybe they just drifted.
Either
drifted, where'd the brood
maybe
go? Yeah, where'd the brood go?
There may not have been quite as much brood in that one. I don't know, because but the other ones are just exploding, and the brood is they're just all kind of, even if they were a little bit weaker at first, they're catching up because of all the brood. There's a couple. One of them I just looked in today. It looks okay, but it's not as strong. There's maybe a couple like that, but the rest of them all look almost the same. They all are very, very consistent as far as like that one we just showed.
Yeah,
probably 16 or 27 or 28 of them look just, or 26 or 27 look just like that. So I think we did a pretty good job of keeping them. Let's see. Tom says Bruce moved the position of the weak hive and the strong one in the middle of the day. Boost numbers in the week. I understand that, but I don't know. I may just throw some brood in there. That's one I'm going to keep myself. I'm sure. Just throw in there. I'll put some cat brood in there and make sure that queen's keeping up. And if she'll probably just kick it in and be fine. I'm not trying to sell that one. I'm going to keep about at least 5 or 6 back for myself, probably just to fill some slots. And the ones that are the weaker ones, I'll keep to myself. But most of them look really, really good. So anyway, let's see. As far as me, someone said selling bees. You kind of heard my story. I'm going to sell. I may try to make some more nukes. I may try to make some queens here in the next few weeks and just get some, April splits out of them. April nukes. Maybe sell a few more and see how things go. So,
have you ever looked at the difference in the profit if you would shift to making some extra nukes as compared to the work that it goes into the honey sales?
I've never been that technical about it, but
it becomes a no-brainer quick.
I'll probably do both.
To
me, I just love that.
Honey is the market. The nukes, the problem is if you don't cut the nuke out, if you cut the nuke out at the wrong time, you're going to set the colony back from being at full field maturity during the honey crop. So yeah, you made $200, but there's no bucket of honey to come off the colony, or 2 buckets. Bruce is probably more like a 2 bucket of honey a colony scenario. So to sacrifice 120 pounds of honey, let's say he's selling it for $12 and netting 10. Let's just say he's netting $1,000 on that deal. He's sacrificing netting $1,000 for netting $130 for a nuke. So
yeah, that's true.
a lot of us, like me, for instance, I'm just a knucklehead. That's what I like to do. That's for me, as I'm comfortable making nukes. I love working with brood and queens. That's the groove that I got in. It's not the most profitable groove. If I was smarter, I would have production colonies that just need thinned, gently pulled
That's
back
what
in
I'm
the
doing.
spring.
Yeah.
Pull the nukes off of those, pull a nuke off of everything to pull them back, and then double dip. But if you are just chasing the nukes, you end up robbing Peter to pay Paul over and over and over again, and you never pay your bills.
That's exactly what you said, Greg. That's what I'm doing. I'm just trying, I'm trying to hold them back a little bit, and even still, I'm going to end up with some swarms, I'm afraid. But that's really, and if I can if I can replace the loss that I need or make my increases and then make a little profit on the nukes, then I think it's a perfect scenario, to help a little bit. It's not going to be my main money maker, but it definitely can help contribute.
What I just heard was Greg, he stepped back, he evaluated the operation, and he said, you know what? I can right size. Do you see the wording he's doing here? Oh, look at this. I got balloons and stuff.
It's a celebration here, Brian. This is
I'm
fantastic.
going to right size my operation, and over I call it the Yellow Jacket barn. Over in the Yellow Jacket barn, you see what I did there, Greg?
I'm a little slow tonight.
See? The over in the barn where the Yellow Jacket colony.
Oh yeah, the bank barn.
Yep, in the bank barn, I'm going to go down there one day, and there's going to be this delivery, and it's going to be like a cow in line. And there's going to be a shift where he's going to right size his operation and move away from doing as many nukes and that. And then I'm going to look out, across that ridge into the field, and I'm going to see all these boxes stacked up, and I'm going to be like, oh, I see now.
He did breed from that queen a couple of years ago, that mega hive that was like 16 boxes high. So maybe he's got a bunch of those queens out there.
You never know. I'm sure at least half of those ended up in the trees there. What's interesting about that, and this is, I think, there is no one way to do this, because like what we do here with the supply shop is I would rather be able to supply and outfit the honey hustlers out there to get them what they need. If they need extra bees, if they need extra equipment, if they need the things so they can meet their honey goals, to me, I would rather do that than to go full on for what I'm doing, to go into the honey market. There are a lot of great folks who are hustling hard in the local area for honey. And, the last thing that any of them need is for me to get serious about producing honey in Central Ohio. Could I do it? I absolutely could do it. I could do it at a drop of a hat. But I would rather be the guy that's helping support them meet their goals, which is also meeting my goals in a different way altogether. It's diversifying all those opportunities where we can collaborate rather than compete. But at some point you end up having too many bees, and you have, if you have extra crop, then you got to do something with it. You
get overwhelmed for sure. So Brian Flower Street, let's see, he says some of my colonies have so many bees and frames of brood that I've been giving them a third deep to expand into. That's interesting. In Colorado, that kind of surprises me up north like that, where it's cold, and that's what I'm dealing with. But I'm way down here in the south, so that's pretty cool that your colonies are so strong. And I've split them, and I've actually put a third deep on a few of them that were just, I have to do something, and they're actually moving up into that. I will say, Greg, I went into some of the ones at Apple and some of those splits we made that had the queens that got released perfectly and everything, and like it was 2 weeks in this past weekend, and I marked 3 or 4 of those boxes as being possible breeder queens, graft, because they are so, like, the queens are just filling them up already. They're just exploding, and so I do think I'm going to try and make a few queens, and maybe if I can get a few successful sales and everything else looks good, I might just try to make a few nukes of my own with my own queens. We'll see how that goes. But, and it's just, it's just that's my dream. That's what I want to do. But I also got to make sure I start putting these honey supers on within the next couple of weeks, just to give them some space and maybe get them working those boxes a little bit, because the honey flow does start kicking in about mid-April here. The privet will be kicking in a little bit then, and for about a month. And it's crazy how fast it happens, because right now is March, and mid-April privet kicks in, mid to late May we harvest the spring harvest, and then a month later, about 5 or 6 weeks later, we harvest the tallow flow, and then we're done. So it's like fast and furious here for about 3 months, and then we're starting to get ready for 2027. It's just so nuts how fast it all happens here. But we are ahead of everybody. But then a lot of people, I think, honestly, have extended seasons. And I think actually up north, some folks that have really good, strong production colonies make more honey than we do down here sometimes. And so it's kind of bizarre how that happens. But yeah, it's good to hear, Brian, out there in Colorado, Flower State. And it's glad to hear things are going well for you already this early in the season.
It's like an ATM machine out there. Just
I guess
pull money out of it.
I guess if it's cold though, you just have to make sure they got food on them and everything. Because I know you can have a severe cold. It can get cold really fast and have issues. But a lot of that probably depends on the breed of bees you have too. Sometimes the Carniolans and the Russians and things like that, the Caucasians will brew way back. But if you got Italians, I've never had Italians up north, but I think they probably don't brew back quite as far. Also from Brian at Flower Street, most of my girls are kittens. I've only got a couple of slightly chippy ones, and they are not that bad. So
sounds perfect.
Yeah,
perfect.
Yeah, it does.
Perfect.
Perfect.
All right, guys.
See a couple more things here real quick. We've got a super chat from Feather Flowers 7102, $5. Thanks. And hey, y'all, appreciate you checking in and being here tonight. We got Bees in the Abyss Kevin, $20 for the bottle of, what's that?
Brian's new
sriracha sauce. There you go. Awesome, Brian.
I know what he's getting at. Kevin, I put the recipe online. I made homemade sriracha, and it turned out, I mean, it was fantastic. So super easy. And I put a picture online, and I'm getting the comments. When's it hitting the website? And not adding hot sauce.
You might have to bring that down to the learning yard. We can dress up some hot dogs with it. Get fancy. Take a hot dog and split it in half there, and put some cheese on there and some sriracha sauce. It won't quite be like the Weenie Warehouse, but it'll be nice.
Yeah, no, I'll bring you a bottle. It's good stuff. I mean, it took 2 weeks. So 2 weeks, and I did 2 pounds of peppers. I think I bought, and I got like 11 bottles of hot sauce. So gave some to my brother, my mom, my son. Yeah.
I just want to go back to, let's see if I can get back in the live comments. Oh, we got a couple of good comments here talking about the 3 deeps. Let's see. Oh, where is it? Oh man,
I could never run 3 deeps.
Anyway, yeah, was that one from Gary? Who said that? Gary? Oh, he said personally.
I could definitely see running a few colonies and triples, and all you're doing is just pulling. It's like dipping a cup into a river, just unlimited bees to pull from and balance things out with.
Yeah, and DC says here I'll run 3 deeps. It's just great just before you split time. It makes 2 strong singles.
Yeah, you make pull 2 full boxes off.
So there's I don't run 3 deeps. I used to do that some, and man, I had some monster colonies. But now I've got a few in 3 deeps. I've got a few that have like 2 mediums on the bottom and then at least 1 deep on top, and all kinds of crazy stuff. But I do think there's an advantage to doing that. If you got 3 boxes, 3 deeps full of bees and brood, you can. And if you want to make splits, you could pull that top one off and make a split. You still have a double deep going into honey season. You could pull 3 splits. You make 3, pull 1 to 3 splits. You can do so many different things with that. But every colony is not going to fill up 3 deeps or move up into 3 deeps. I just kind of let my bees always just kind of do what they can. Like I do have some I run in single deeps through the honey flow. I have some in deep and medium, some in double deeps, and then some have 4 supers or 5 super stacks. Some of them have 1. So when I get to a certain point in the season where the bees are kind of peaking and really growing, And moving forward, I just kind of let each hive do what its potential is. And we talked in the past about the 1 talent, 2 talent, and 5 talent hives.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of let them meet their potential. And I've had good success doing that over the years. And but this time of the year, it's better to slap an extra deep on there and let them grow up in there than to have them in the trees, So it's just a space thing, and then you can manage that later. Sometimes they'll move into the top two, and you can take the bottom one out. I think somebody mentioned that if it's empty. But yeah, it's just everybody's got to figure out what works best for them. Let's see, we got Kevin. Oh, we already talked about that one. Let's see.
I think Bruce wants some sriracha too.
We got Mike a P 4890. Appreciate the super sticker super
Thank
chat
you.
there. Thanks so much. And then we have good friend Mark Zinner. Best of luck this season. We met Mark, I think, at the Bee Expo, and appreciate the super chat there, Mark. He said best of luck this season, and that applies to everyone in the chat tonight. Thanks so much, man. Let's see. How do I get rid of that comment? Well, Brian, tell us what you got coming up in the next few days. What are your plans in the next week?
Yeah, I'll tell you, I actually have my first market of the season this Saturday. So I had a little bit of extra honey left over from last year, and I normally will not start doing markets until like July. I like to have my first harvest in, and then I'll start doing markets. But I just thought, you know what? I've got enough honey that's there. I've got enough, lip balm and things like that made up. So I signed up to do an early market. So that's Saturday. That's at that bigger market that I typically do. That's on Saturday. Sunday, I'm going to see that there fella at the club. And after that, I probably am going to ride next week. And I really won't do much as far as bees just because our weather next week is just going to be pretty much junk. I may get out on days where maybe it'll fluctuate 50. I do need to make some Home Depot runs, and I may pick up, figure out the number of boards that I need just to make the stands that I want to make up. That way I have that there. And then I can at least pump out stands and just start that. I do want to go over, and I'll tell you, when it is cold one day would probably be a good day to do it. I have the fabric. That way I can put all new fabric under the colonies. I'm going to leave the gray fabric that's there, but I've got the black, real thick black fabric. I'm going to actually double it. So there will be 3 rows. I'll have that, gray that's down, and then I'll put 2 rows of the black and get that all held down. I need to get some stakes and things like that, but I could get things like that done in the next week. It all depends on what Mother Nature is doing. So we're going to get into that squirrely season up here with the weather. So, but I may not go over at all. We'll just have to play it by ear and see what the weather does. So,
okay. I want to address one more question here real quick. Have you guys use the Sting Stopper jacket? Is it worth the price? That's what I use now. I mean, my favorite 2 jackets is Sting Stopper and the Guardian. Those are the main 2 ones I've worn over the years. And the thing I do like about the Sting Stopper, I do like the olive color. I also like the fact that it's longer. I've got a long torso, and so I had issues at times with the Guardian. Sometimes the bees would get up right in the area that's not so comfortable in your back, if you know what I mean. T-shirt would come up a little bit. Bees kind of tend to find that little bare area and maybe go down a little bit or even up, and they'll get you right there, where it's not too comfortable. So sometimes they also work up into your veil, kind of, I guess they walk up your back. But the Sting Stopper, I've had less of that happen. It is longer. It goes down probably, I would guess, another 6 inches or more down. And so I do like it, but that's just my opinion. I do. That's been my jacket of choice of late. I have nothing against Guardian. I would use it again, but that's the one I'm wearing now. So to answer your question, I do think it's worth the price. I think it's a very reasonable price. I wore it all last year. Pretty much all year. Started at about this time last year, maybe a little bit later. And it's the olive color. It doesn't show dirt, but it just almost feels like new. It doesn't feel like it's worn hardly at all. And so I would recommend it personally. But I think I think it's a similar price to the Guardian. Guardian's a really good jacket. I have nothing against the Guardian at all. So I think you couldn't go wrong with either one of those. And there's some other good ones on the market as well. Let's see. Yeah. So as far as here in this area, I'm just this week is my week to try and get the nukes that I'm going to sell sold and at their new home. They need to be put somewhere and in some bigger boxes. And so Greg's aware I've got I've got a place where they're going to hire me to. They've actually purchased all the equipment. They purchased it from Greg, and they purchased the nukes from me, the bees. And they're going to pay me to manage their bees for them. It's someone who's financially secure, to say the least, and they have a beautiful place up there. And so that's 16 of these colonies are going there. I've got 2 other customers that are going to, I think, be buying some bees from me this weekend as well. So a total of 7, I believe, nukes. And then I don't know if I'm going to sell any more beyond that or not, or keep them to myself. I need to see what I look like in my own operation and if I have more spots to plug or fill. But I'm probably going to sell those 15 or let's see, 23 or 25 possibly. And then leave the other 5 to kind of just play around with. And then I may do some more nukes in the future. But that's my main goal this weekend, is to get all the nukes out where they need to go, get them in the bigger boxes at their new homes. And I'd take care of that. And plus just check in on my other stuff. I've got a place called Honey Hill Farm where I do manage his bees for him. He pays me to do that. And so I've kind of neglected those a little bit. They do have bees in them. I need to make sure a couple of the nukes may go out there if some of those are looking a little weak. And so that's another place I need to really get out there and see what needs to happen. I think I'm going to replace his boxes as well. Some of them are getting pretty old. And Greg brought me some boxes. I bought some more boxes from him to do that with. And then I just need to figure out adding space, doing something with my other colonies that are getting so big and strong. It's just, I don't know how I'm going to keep up. Like I was saying before, it's almost like I'm on a runaway carriage. And I'm just trying to pull the reins back and can't get that horse to slow down. It's just kind of crazy how it's just like I'm coming along for the ride. To be honest, there's 2 reasons I think it's my bees are doing this. Number one, I think it's the variety of bees. Most of my bees are Italian Cordovans or Italian. They are heavy Italian genetics. And they don't slow down a lot in the wintertime. Plus, the second thing is I've been feeding them throughout the winter with the fondant. Third thing is I've really tried to get the mics under control. I think that's helped a little bit. I hope the bees are pretty clean. And then fourth, I just think bees down here, they just take off. January 1st hits and they just, for some reason, that's about the time they really start to ramp it up again. And so things just take off down here a little faster than other parts of the country. But hope I can keep them in the boxes enough to make a lot of honey, have a good honey crop this year, and keep them out of the trees. That's my goal. But I'm just literally, I'm on for the ride right now. I'm going to be running, doing the best I can, and we do have some family events and things coming up as well that I'm going to have to participate in on some of the weekends, and so I can't be in them every minute of every weekend. But it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it, and I really do. Greg, I don't know about you. I know you said you're pretty tired, but just even that weekend when you were up here, just even though it's very fatiguing and tiring, it's just kind of cool. I'm pretty excited about it. So, that's what I'm doing. I'll be trying to keep up with the videos too, getting some videos out here. They're just doing the best I can with that. But honestly, the videos are important, but the bees are the most important thing. Make sure I take good care of those. So I'm doing the best I can there. But anyway, plenty to do around here in Southeast Alabama. Greg, we'll just turn it over to you, man. Bring it on home for us.
Well, Bruce, we're all living vicariously through the Dothan Shogun experience here. So it's neat because we all know what's coming up next, and won't be too much longer. And folks here in the great state of Ohio will be complaining, worrying, losing sleep, wondering if their bees are in the trees. It won't be long, but I look forward to that part of the season. And it's the more years you get under your belt with beekeeping, I think the more you start to look back and can reflect on how many times have we spent worrying about bees, or worrying about the next step, or worrying if we're doing it right, or worrying if we're doing it wrong, or worrying if it's going to flop, or worrying. And every year you find yourself, you still kind of do that, but it hits a little differently, or there's something different to worry about. But what's, I think, neat with beekeeping is every year we just keep digging in. We just keep putting our best foot forward. We're dedicated and saying, hey, we're going to keep figuring this thing out. And somehow, no matter what, here we all are again for another year, all here together, the stream team viewers, the stream team, we're all here together for another beekeeping season. What in the world is that going to hold? I mean, just think about, like, right here we are, we're getting ready to let her rip. To me, it's pretty exciting to think about all the different things that not just Bruce or Brian or myself, but think of all the exciting things that everyone who's listening right now are going to get into, going to experience. Like, to me, that's really cool to just take a second just to try to close your eyes and say, man, imagine everybody on here right now listening, like all the cool things and all the experiences that you're going to have this year. And just to think that somehow we're all still connected through all that, through this. To me, it's just kind of a wow kind of a moment. So, from all of us here at the stream team, we just want to thank everybody for spending time with us week after week, year after year, joining us in this beautiful ride, this beautiful journey of beekeeping. It's going to be a great year, and we're looking forward to spending it with everyone here. So, as always, we want to remind you to be the lighthouse and be who God wants you to be. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.